All right, thanks everyone for joining us on Slamazon Bros Live Week 4. I'm Nathan Slamans here with my co-host Andy Slamans, and we are looking forward to a topic that is really relevant this month, when to hold, lower, or raise your prices. First off, I just want to remind everyone to check out slamazonbros.com, where all of our replays are available and where we will be actively publishing content. And then also join the Slamazon Bros Facebook group for daily engagement. But over the last couple of weeks, we have seen many listings on Amazon that have been skyrocketing in price. And then we've also seen many listings that have had hundreds of sellers flood the market, per se, and tank prices. So Andy is going to give us some tips on what to do in these situations, and I'm going to let Andy take away here.
All right, great. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us. The information that we're sharing here, I'm sure there's a lot of people right now in the chat room that have some great tips regarding this subject as well. So we're just going to share with you out of our experience of selling for the past 3 years. Just know, like, when to hold, when to raise your price, when to sell. It's not an exact science. So there's a lot of moving pieces, right, that go into the decision-making process of whether you're going to hold inventory or whether you're going to sell. Obviously, that question, we ask ourselves that question because we want the highest ROI as possible on the product that we have into the Amazon warehouse, right? I have a brother that always talks about, he always says he doesn't want to work for peanuts. And sometimes that's what it feels like when you get product in the warehouse and a lot of other sellers jump on it and the price tanks. And you continue to sell, but maybe you're only making $2 or $3. So then you're faced with the question, how long am I going to hold it? Should I hold it? You know, you have a fear of if Amazon may come in on it. If there are a lot of sellers, you're trying to figure out how long it's going to take to sell through. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And just like Nate said, at Christmas time, it is super relevant to know when to hold and then also to know when to raise your price. If you don't have a repricer, we both recommend that at least you use a repricer for the months of November, December, because it's going to really help so that you don't leave money on the table when prices of hot products skyrocket in price. And that can happen like overnight. So what I've seen some sellers talking about is they're sending their product in and Amazon is showing it as like arriving in stock in 2 days. And that product is selling and they have them in the repricer. If you're using App Eagle, it doesn't adjust your price when your product's being sent into the warehouse. And so some of these prices are changing like $15, $20. And so they're losing that money, leaving that money on the table. That's not what we want to do. So let me give you 2 examples real quick before I go into, I have 6 points about whether to hold or whether to sell. 2 examples. I have a brother that sells on Amazon. He was selling these Oreo cookie dough flavor Oreos. So I don't know if any of you in the chat room have sold those before.
Sound good.
They were actually. And so he was selling these and a bunch of other sellers jumped in on them. So the price tanked. You know, most likely sellers were breaking even or maybe making a couple pennies. Well, he set his price up and he said, you know what, I don't want to work for peanuts, so I'm just going to wait all the low sellers out. So he let all the other sellers sell through theirs. He was the last person on Amazon selling Oreo cookie dough flavor cookies, right? So, and when he was the last person, he was selling 2 packs for $25.99 for 2 packs of Oreos. But he had to have the intestinal fortitude. He had to have the guts to be able to hold, right, that inventory and believe that it was going to sell at that higher price point. So that's what he did. That's one example. All right. That was an example of, again, where he decided I'm going to hold. I'll give you another example. I just experienced, I sold Nerf guns a week ago that I purchased last year. I purchased them for $49. They were these huge Nerf guns. And I just held on to them for a year. A lot of times Nerf guns, they'll go out of production. This one particularly didn't, but the price wasn't there. So, and I merchant fulfilled them. So I just held them at my house. And then last week in one day, within like 3 hours, I sold all 6 of them. Ones I purchased for $49, I sold them for $129. So that's an example of what I say of, you have inventory you want to hold. So let's just hit these 6 points real quick. And again, these are the things that I think about, whether I'm going to hold this, whether I'm going to sell it, whether I'm going to raise the price, or maybe whether I'm going to lower the price because I have a fear that Amazon's going to come in on it, and I just want to move that inventory quickly and get my money back. All right. So here's the first thing. The question you need to ask yourself is, how many units do you have in stock? So sometimes what I'll do is I'll sell through half of my units. Maybe they're only netting me between $5 and $7, but maybe I bought 400 of these. All right. And so I'll sell through half of them, maybe making $5 to $7. But then for the other half, I'll hold out on and wait to make that $14. All right. Per unit. I bought 250 Nerf guns last year at Walmart. I had to hold on to those for 3 months until they got to my desired price point, because so many other sellers had bought them, the price tanked. And so that's sometimes a strategy I will use, but that's a question you got to ask. How many units do you have in stock?
Hey, Andy, real quick.
Yep.
Will you try to figure like what your break even is, your break even cost based on those half units, or is it not even that much of an exact science? You're just thinking to yourself, I bought 250, I'm going to sell 125, making a few bucks, and then I'll raise my price.
Yeah, so for me, it's a risk reward thing. Like I'm going to do that on products that I think Amazon may come in on. I'll do it on products that if there's a ton of sellers on them, and I just don't want to wait that long before I get all my money back. And sometimes I do that on products where when I sent them in, I thought I was making $14 then, and then the price tanked. And so I'm just not comfortable, on some products, having them sit like that for 3 months. So I'll sell half and then I'll maybe hold half, or I'll sell 75%, hold 25%. And also that depends on your cash flow situation. If you're in a good cash flow situation where you can sit on a product and you're confident that Amazon's not going to come in on it, then obviously it's always better to sit on it and hold, because you're going to get a higher ORI. So that's my first thing I think about. Second thing I think about is, has Amazon been on the product? So you got to know that you got to look at the Keepa charts. You got to look at camel. See and recognize, does Amazon come in and out of stock on a regular basis? If Amazon comes in and out of stock on a regular basis, then you can hold that product in confidence, generally that Amazon's going to go OOS, and you'll be able to sell through at the profit margin you want. So that's the second question. You always got to look. You always got to ask yourself, does Amazon sell it? Third thing I'll think about is this a name brand evergreen product? So, is this I used an example earlier, a Nerf gun? If you go into your Amazon account, you can actually look at the page views of all the products that you have. It'll show you the exact amount of page views. Always and forever, the 3 years that I've been selling, my name brand products, they'll have, like 100,000 page views, where my private label products will have like 2,000. And so, if it's a name brand product, you can have confidence in that. And if it's an evergreen product, confidence, that may allow you to hold that product a little longer, because it's going to sell, right? And that it's a name brand. I'll give you an example. So the Minions, they're kind of becoming, right, a name brand evergreen product. They had these Christmas blow up lawn ornaments at Home Depot. You could get them, I think, for $40. Well, just 2 weeks ago, they were only selling for $49. And so sellers who had those Minion blow up Christmas ornaments, right, the big ones that go on the lawn, they had to make a decision. Crap, am I going to hold this, or am I going to sell it now and just make a few dollars, or break even? Well, the ones that decided to hold it, they're selling now for between $90 and $100. And so, within like a week's time, they jumped up that quick. So that's kind of, an example of an evergreen product, a Minion that I would have probably held, knowing that as it got closer to Christmas, they were going to sell higher. Here's the fourth thing. You want to look at the historical sales rank and the average selling price of the product. Again, that's becoming real familiar with the tools of Keepa and Camel. If I'm going to hold a product, I want to know what that history has been with the rank and what the history has been with the price for the previous year. So I want to see what it's sold for an entire year. You want to look and see, is the price trending downward, right? So if you bought the product and you look at that camel chart, is it going downward like this, or is it going up, or is it just level, right? That's a huge thing you want to see, because if it's going downward, you might want to sell that product sooner rather than later, because that's telling you that the price, is on that downward trend. Another thing that I'll take into consideration, right? I'll check Jungle Scout to get an idea of how many units sell each month in a given category. So Jungle Scout's pretty good. Again, it's not an exact science, but you can look and see, how many units at a 5,000 rank in the toy category will sell per month. That's going to just give you more information in your decision on whether to hold or sell. You want to check to see how many sellers are on the product, right? And then you want to see how many units those sellers have. And again, we're talking about a product that maybe you're buying 20 of, 30 of, 50 of. Those of you who are new, you can do a little trick. If you want to see like how many units I have, all you got to do is go to my store name, you click add to cart. And if you put 999 add to cart, then it'll generally show you like how many units I have. That'll tell you then, again, going off of what Jungle Scout shows you, how long it may take for me to sell through that inventory, or how long it may take for those other sellers to sell through their inventory.
Quick note, Andy, that does not usually work for Amazon, though, as being
Correct.
The seller. You they hide their inventory, so you can't do that trick on Amazon.
That's right. Also, hey, you guys, if you have questions at all, you can just put them in the chat room there, and Nate is looking at them, and we'll try to get to them at the end of the show. So feel free, if you have any questions, to put them in there. Also, if you haven't joined the Slamazon Bros Facebook group, feel free to join that. And if you have any questions from the show, you can post them there as well, and we'll try to answer them there. All right, so the fifth thing is, what are the prices of the similar products selling for on Amazon? I'll go back to the Nerf guns. There's different store exclusives that are basically the same gun, but maybe a color variation or something a little different. And so what I'll do is I'll look on Amazon and I'll see, again, what those other Nerf guns that are basically the same thing, what they're selling for and what they have sold for. Then that gives me more information, again, whether I'm just going to hold or sell through the product. Spend time, I always say the spend time in the Amazon catalog, just like you were a customer. You're going to get a lot of information and a lot of know-how just going through those Amazon catalog pages, looking at the best sellers list. You want to spend time in that catalog every day. The more that you understand how Amazon is attracting their customers, the better you and more informed you're going to be when it comes to making purchases on product. All right, here's my sixth and final thing. I'll ask myself, again, this is pertaining to, am I going to hold it or am I going to sell it? Is it a seasonal item, right? It may sell only at Christmas. It may sell only at Christmas and Father's Day. And the key to this is you don't want to pay those long-term storage fees. If you're a new seller, just understand this. You have to sell. You don't have to, but you want to sell through your inventory every 6 months. If you don't, you're going to have to recall that inventory to your house, because the long-term storage fees are ridiculously high, and you don't want to have to pay those. And basically, if you have a product where there's 2 or more, they're going to charge you on that second product. And the short-term storage fees are very doable. They're not very high at all. But if you have multiple products in there and they go past that 6-month point, then you're going to pay through the nose to keep those at the Amazon warehouse. So that's a question you always got to have in your head, that you have to sell whatever inventory you have. You only have a 6-month window before you're going to have to recall that back to your house. So those are basically my 6 things that I look into. And again, like with this, it's just like with anything, the more experience you are at doing it, then the more natural it becomes. And so, this is my 3rd year, And every year it gets a little easier to kind of go through all those 6 things that I said in my head inwardly before I'll push the trigger and make a buy. So that's what I had, Nate. I don't know if you have anything else that you want to add.
Yeah, I'll just add a couple notes on that last point where you said you were talking about the storage fees. If you guys do want to check out your potential storage fees that are going to be coming up in February, you can go to in Seller Central, go to your reports tab, and then do an inventory health report, and it'll give you the 6-month estimated long-term storage fee if you have any. So it's just estimates right now, and Amazon only charges you that 6-month storage fee 2 times a year, I think in February and August. So you might have had something longer than 6 months in Amazon right now, but it's only those 2 dates where they're actually charging you those fees. So that's just a quick side note. But Andy, I think the question that a lot of people have, and I know you hit on this a little bit, each year it gets easier, but I think one of the main questions we're seeing is, this is my first Q4 ever selling on Amazon. I bought a bunch of hot selling toys on Black Friday, and right now I am in the middle of 100 or 200 or 300 other sellers. I'm kind of in the middle of the pack. And where do I go with that? Do I, try to use a repricer to get pennies under some of the other people right now? Or do I hold where I'm at for a couple more days? Maybe you can hit on what your biggest sales days have been the last, 2 years, and just what you feel like some of those hot Black Friday items. I know you said sometimes you hold yours for a month or two, but I know a lot of people are just feeling like they have this money tied up in inventory. What do they do over the next couple weeks?
Sure. So I'll just stick with the example of the Nerf guns. Generally, the biggest days for me the last 3 years have been December 15th, 16th, and 17th. And so that's when the frenzy is. So I have some products right now that I'll just say, because they're pretty, most people know about them. They're Zoomers. It's a certain kind of Zoomer. And Amazon had been selling it for $79. Amazon just bumped their price up to $89. I have my price set at, I believe, $129 or $139. And I'm hoping that Amazon's going to go out of stock. Now, this is an item that I'm okay with just breaking even, or making a little bit of money. It's an item that I do not want to hold after Christmas. And so I have my price right now at like $129 or $139. I'm going to hold that price till about December 20th. If it doesn't sell, right, or if Amazon continues to sell at $89, well, here's one thing that's interesting, Nate. I don't know if you've noticed this, but Amazon has these products, and it's like this on the Zoomer, where it's $89, but it's only if you're a Prime member. And so in order to get, you can't even buy that product unless you're a Prime member. So, which is cool for third-party sellers, because you can still buy it from us. You can still buy it from me for $129, but you can only buy it from Amazon if you're a Prime member. So anyway, so I hold those to like December 20th. And if it doesn't sell by then I'll start dropping my price, because that's not a product that I want to hold, past January.
Yeah, that's good. Let's hit on Nate McAllister's question real quick. He asked, do you regularly create PPC campaigns for problem items that aren't selling as expected? And I'm guessing he's referring to those retail arbitrage and online arbitrage items, because I know I use the point per click campaigns for my private label items, but me personally, I don't use them much for my retail items. I don't know about you, Andy. Do you ever utilize those?
Yeah, actually, this year is the first time that I've done that, and I have some really high value items that are really expensive, but I'm testing that. I want to see if doing PPC on those is going to help, because they're items that haven't sold a lot, and so there's not a really good rank on them. But my price beats basically the ones that are selling at good ranks. So I'm hoping by getting my ad up there, hopefully on first page, it might get some sales.
And the way those PPC campaigns work is you only get charged if you're in the buy box. Is that correct? That's how I take it.
Yes, that's right.
I only use it for my private label items where I'm always in the buy box, so I always get charged for it. But they do work well. So I know we had other questions. A lot of questions people had was about repricers. So I don't know if you want to touch on that. I know you're using App Eagle right now for a repricer. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I recommend if you have any amount of inventory that you can't manage, well, even if you can manage it. So I use App Eagle. I only use them for November and December. I may use them for like half of January. But what that does, and I use the setting where it's like constantly changing prices. You know, if you don't have a lot of product, you can do that manually. But basically, you know, it means every hour you may have to go in there and adjust your prices, which I don't recommend. It's just not a good use of your time. What App Eagle will do, again, at that higher setting, is it changes the prices constantly. So, you know, if someone drops it by 60 cents and I have my repricer set, you know, at a certain, you can do a minimum and do a maximum. And if my minimum is still lower, it'll basically match the price of whatever the competitor put. So, you know, again, if you have any amount of inventory, I definitely recommend using it. I don't know what your experience has been with App Eagle, Nate.
I used App Eagle last year and I really liked it. This year I was signing up for App Eagle and I decided to test out this repricer called Be Cool. I think is how you pronounce it, BQOOL. They give you a 14-day free trial and you don't need to put in your credit card or anything, so it's super easy to sign up for. The platform isn't quite as user-friendly as App Eagle, so I'm still getting used to it. But I like repricers for Q4. They're just, I don't think there's any reason not to have one if you have a decent amount of inventory. They really save you time, and they save you money as well. You think you're spending money for them, but when you have one hot product that jumps in price $20 and your repricer catches it and raises your price up and you sell out, you're saving money, you're making money. So I find them to be helpful. I like them. But again, I only have experience with those two repricers right now. I know we have another question involving the repricers. We'll go to Kevin's question. He asked, when you set your minimum and maximum in Amazon, will Amazon actually reprice for you? I'm currently using App Eagle. Amazon won't reprice for you, but App Eagle will if you set your minimum and maximum and have your formula set up so that you want to maybe be 1 penny higher than the buy box or 1 penny below the buy box. That's where you'll automatically get that adjustment, Kevin. And I know other people were asking about the repricers, you know, where to set those minimum and maximums. I personally set the minimum. Basically, I'll look at what I paid for the item, what the estimated net profit's going to be from the item after fees. I set that for my minimum, whatever I want it to be. Usually it depends what I want it to be. I'll set that as my minimum. And then my maximum, I usually don't have, I'll put the maximum what I see as reasonable. And in Q4, that can be really high. So even if it's a $20 item, my maximum might be, $80, $90, just to see if it might jump up there. But knowing that it's probably going to stick around whatever the current buy box is. But I don't have a set minimum I do for everything. I usually just try to look for whatever I feel, most comfortable with the minimum amount of money making. And then again, like everything we're saying, if it's a product that, I'm getting afraid that there's too many sellers on, or I'm afraid Amazon's going to jump on it, then I might lower my minimum to something where I'm just breaking even or even losing a little bit of money if I want to just dump that inventory. We have a question, is Be Cool real time? I'm signed up for the one currently where it's real time. It is cheaper, so the Be Cool repricer I think is only $50 a month once you're paying for it. So that is one benefit. But again, I do like the App Eagle platform better than the Be Cool one. So I would do the trial for Be Cool, and then I think App Eagle has a trial as well. So you could probably even do, test out both trials before committing to one of them before paying.
So making the trend asks if we did a lot of Amazon flips in Q4. Yeah, I try to do Amazon flips all year long, but if the buy price is right, and again, you can never buy an Amazon flip from your seller's account. You have to have just a buyer's account that is not linked to your seller's account. But if the price is right, and again, looking at the ranks and the history, I'll buy Amazon flips all day.
Yeah, I will say that I did more Amazon flips last year where there wasn't as many quantity limits. Now Amazon is pretty much limit 2 on most items, especially if they're popular. So I haven't done as many this year as far as sales or buy cost. But I'm definitely like you. I'm still doing them throughout the whole year.
Great. Well, if there's no more questions, then Nate, I think we could probably wrap the show up. And it's been 25 minutes now.
All right. Yeah. Well, that sounds good. So again, everyone, thanks for joining us today. Check out slamazonbros.com where a replay of this will be available. So if you want to tell other people about this as well, tell them to go to slamazonbros.com. You can also join us at the Slamazon Bros Facebook group, as we've already mentioned. We've had a lot of good conversations in there. Any questions that weren't answered here today, whether you're watching this live or if you're going to watch this on YouTube, join the Slamazon Bros Facebook group. Ask Andy or I. We'll do our best to answer your questions. And then besides that, we'll see you guys next week at same time, same place.
All right. Thanks a lot, you guys.
See you guys.
Have a good Wednesday.